Doug is a fixer. He always has been, because that was the way he was raised, was that you can solve your own problems. You will chart your own course, and you have all the tools that you need to succeed.
That's
you do.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's amazing, but it's also like not always true.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you want to be better with money but dread the math? I get it. That's why this show is not focused on math, the markets, meme stocks, or even economic predictions. It is focused on how money fits into your daily life, from having healthy money conversations to caring for an aging parent. I'm Karen Coyne, certified financial planner professional and your host of Money Without Math. Join us for conversations that are practical, sometimes philosophical, and always fresh. Learn more about me at raymondjames.com/clarity, and be sure to subscribe. First, you fall in love, and then two become one. One home, one heart, one joint bank account? Just as relationships themselves are rarely 50-50, managing joint finances is usually a lot more complex than a simple straight cut down the middle. Our guest today spent 2 years interviewing and studying couples and shares what she has learned about how to better do money together. Our guest is Heather Boneparth. She does money personally and professionally with her husband, Doug Boneparth, founder of Bonafide Wealth in New York City. Together, they co-write The Joint Account, a newsletter helping couples talk about money. And they've recently co-authored the book Money Together, How to Find Fairness in Your Relationship and Become an Unstoppable Financial Team. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks so much for having me, Karen. I'm so excited we could do this.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much.
You're officially launched, right?
I'm officially official. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling when you work on something for a very long time and you try to explain to people what it will be, and then they can actually see what it will be. It's a very strange but awesome feeling.
Yes. Well, congratulations. And what a great topic. I mean, money is tough to talk about. Relationships are tough. And then you bring them together and it's a whole other thing. So
money is not just money. And that's the truth. I think you know that. We all know that, right? From this work. The minute you think you know, you realize that you have no idea what's going on beyond the spreadsheet in people's minds and their hearts and how they truly feel. And if anything that we learned over the past 2 years in interviewing, dozens and dozens of couples and the best-in-class experts from the field of finance to psychology to couples therapy and more, it's just that this cuts deep. It's personal, and your feelings really, really matter when it comes to money.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And a number of the experts that you've referenced in your book have been guests here on the podcast. One in particular, Dr. Joy Leary, who, talked on the episode that we did together basically about, you have, like I mentioned in the intro, two becoming one. It's not just two people and two bank accounts. It's right, two shared histories.
That's right.
With a lot of emotional, personal experience that might be similar or might be quite different.
Dr. Leary is first of all, brilliant, love her, a dear friend. And she has fantastic insights on this, which we include in the first section of our book, which is all about beginnings, right? Because I think you live a lot of life before you meet your partner. And you learn values from a young age. You learn your money behaviors and your money scripts from a young age, for better or worse, good ones and harmful ones, right? From a young age. And just because you love someone doesn't mean all those feelings go away, right? You have to find a way to marry your beliefs around money with the person you are married to create that cohesive unit that is built on the values that you share together as a couple. It's not easy work. And that's why so much of this idea around couples and money, it's self-work first.
Yes.
Right?
Right. And I think what's so fascinating too is it's things that we're maybe not even aware of. I had this experience one year with my now ex-husband, but at Christmas, you know, he came from a family where they would have tons and tons of gifts, just mounds and mounds, right? And I came from a family where it was much more pared down, simple, very practical, pragmatic. And it's not that one was right and one was wrong. And that was kind of the self-talk that I had. I was like, you know, it's not that you're right and he's wrong, or he's right and you're wrong. It's just you've had these different experiences. But this is why it gives you so much angst at what should be this happy holiday celebration. And you're just bristling with, you know, anxiety.
And that's why you're not just, you know, squabbling or in a conflict over the money itself. Like, these are deeply rooted feelings on what you believe, in your example, a holiday should be, right? Like, we actually spoke with a couple for a chapter about culture and coming from different cultures. And a very similar example was given, right? Like the one partner, basically the way that he grew up was, you don't really place a lot of emphasis on holidays and on gift giving around holidays or any special occasions. Like, you love people every day, and you don't, and for his wife, she grew up in a bit of a tumultuous household, but the holidays themselves were like really placed up on this pedestal. And it was almost like the holiday created this special moment where everything was okay. And she continued and aged into adulthood and started their family under the notion that they would also treat holidays with that special feeling and invest in them accordingly, right? And to make a big deal out of their kids' birthdays and their anniversaries and stuff. And it didn't feel good to her, right? So where they had to find that middle ground was him realizing, all right, well, maybe I didn't grow up this way, but like, it's really important to my wife that we put a little bit more. Maybe I have to step off of my like tight grip over our budgeting for this holiday time, so that we can find a way forward with what works for our family, not just holding on to the way that I was raised.
Yes.
It's really hard work. And it's not necessarily something that's going to happen in the earliest years of your relationship. Like, these things take a lot of time.
Exactly. And honestly, I think you could do, like, your next book could just be about navigating holidays and all of these emotional baggage things that come with it.
You know, it's so funny because as we started looking into the micro topics that we would really dive into for this book, like chapter by chapter, and I knew that I wanted the book to be 30 short chapters. I wanted them to be digestible, like snippets. Like, we weren't going to create world peace in 2,000 words or less in each of these chapters. But a chapter like the one on culture, I even mentioned in the chapter, like, there is no way to cover all of this in such a short span of time, in such a condensed space. But I think what you can do is to start to identify the things like, you know, when you do come from a different culture, that how that impacts your money behaviors, your feelings, and your beliefs. And just by identifying them and calling out a couple of them, the reader can then say to themselves, like, wow, we do talk about money differently, or wow, we were raised to believe that this way of making money was the right way.
Right.
I think that's an interesting one too. Like,
yes.
in some cultures, like, you know, hustle culture is real. Like, you do whatever you have to do, and it doesn't matter. And there is no like culturally ingrained standard of the way that you should make money. Whereas, like, the way I grew up, it was like, you become a doctor, you become a lawyer, you go to a white collar job. That is what is acceptable in the way in the framework in which I grew up.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
That was a cultural script ingrained in me from a young age.
Right. Whereas you mentioned, you know, Doug's family, they're entrepreneurial, they're very comfortable with risk. And I mean, that's something as advisors we often see is, you know, somehow those two people meet, just like the people who like to be at the airport 3 hours early, marry the people who like to fly in, you know, come in hot.
Oh my God. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, some families are completely risk averse. They would never encourage their children to do something where they would be in a situation, you know, like that.
My family would have never, right? Like, because that's just not what they did. The same way that Doug is a fixer. He always has been, because that was the way he was raised, was that you can solve your own problems. You will chart your own course. And you have all the tools that you need to succeed.
That's
you do.
Fantastic.
And it's I mean, it's amazing, but it's also like not always true.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's why, when we talk about risk, and so risk is something I love talking about, not just because I spent, over a decade in the commercial insurance industry, but because I think that like people don't always get it, that like it's not black and white. We all kind of live on this sliding scale of gray, and that the
Oh, yeah.
compromise exists somewhere in there, and that none of us really can control. Like risk is about acknowledging that you cannot control outcomes, right? But we can kind of make decisions to hedge what those outcomes might be and what the impact of them might be.
Yes.
So like with someone like Doug, like it's just, he grew up in this risk on environment, and I grew up kind of in more of like a fear-based scarcity, like put your head down and do your work and do a good job and it'll all work out.
Yeah. And that can take a while to reconcile.
Right.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting about your book is you're not coming and saying, just like there's no one way to do relationships. There's no one way to do relationships and money. It's not a how-to. It's not here's how you need to do it. But it's more, I found it to be more like, okay, here are some common hot water situations. Here are some situations where people get into trouble because, maybe culturally there are these different beliefs, or how we were raised, we have these different beliefs. And here's, conversations to help us better address them, work through them, and come out better together.
That's right. We want people to understand a couple of things. One, that money is a practice. You're not going to get it right once and be done with it forever.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no solution. Like when people try and sell you do these 5 things and you'll be a millionaire like me. Like you see so many of these
oh yes.
So many of these influencers and people trying to like sell a course.
Sell
and
courses.
If you do these things, you're good forever. Like that's not real life.
Exactly.
That is not real, because real life is dynamic. It changes. We are living life in seasons, and we're not always sure what the next season will bring. So all our goal was to create space for you and your partner to navigate change, manage uncertainty, and make room for each other and everything that you want in this life, so that you both feel seen in your relationship and that you're acting as a team and really having each other's back, because that is the way that you will be able to face the next season, face the unknown, the good and the bad, and whatever comes your way, with the most fairness, sustainability, and love in your life. And that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah. That's a tall order. So that's, like you said, it takes work. It's dynamic, and you're always learning, adjusting, and
you're not going to get it right.
You're not always going to get it right.
Get it right sometimes. Like the reason we share about our own story is because I'm like, well, we might as well go first. We're not perfect. And my husband's been in the financial services industry since he was 19 years old. And I'm like, a well-educated lawyer who was always very involved in our finances in our 20s. And then life happened.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I made a choice one day to say, I don't want to be involved with our money anymore. That wasn't what happened. Life happened to us. Right. And we weren't paying attention, and we weren't dialed in to what needed to happen to keep both of us in the loop and keep both of us feeling like we weren't being swallowed up by our circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Like it happens to everyone. So like, I think that's the other point we always want to get across. Like there shouldn't be shame in taking a step in the wrong direction. Like you can course correct at any time.
Yes, that's so important. Heather, what surprised you the most, in talking to these couples and learning their stories?
A lot. I would say how much I was able to infer from what wasn't being said. That there was just as you could really, I think there were people who signed up for these interviews with us because they either wanted to meet my husband, who's a bit of like a meme lord on social media, or like other advisors who like brought their like wives on, and like they thought that they could like flex their financial knowledge and talk about their like great spreadsheets and stuff like that. And I don't think they knew like what they were getting into when I started asking their wife, well, how much of the household labor are you responsible for? Like, I don't think, what surprised me was that everyone kind of had not everyone, but some folks had an idea of where it was going, and maybe I surprised them with where it ended up going. And the conversations really were just so incredibly revealing. And in ways that like every single one was different in ways that we didn't expect. Like we could have been 30, 40 minutes into an interview with someone. And then like, for example, like somebody dropped that their grandfather sold his cardboard box factory for $100 million, like 40 minutes into the interview. Like that's what was so cool about this experience. Like every story was different. And I really like sat with them afterwards. I tried not to get caught up in the thing that I thought we would be talking about. And I tried to lean into the thing that I took from it or that Doug took from it. And that was so cool. Like I'm obsessed with it. I want to keep talking to people about their money all the time.
Right. Well, you start a podcast. You could start.
You know what? We had a podcast during COVID and it was a banger. It was a banger. I think we might have to bring it back. I love podcasts.
It's so fun. I mean, I just feel like, obviously from each episode, I hope that there's some practical takeaways for folks who are listening, but also it's so fascinating to me because I've learned so much. But as a person, as a professional, just, it's been great.
I should say this too, not just what surprised me about the couples, but what surprised me about myself. I learned so much about myself through the process of hearing other people's stories and speaking to so many experts. Like I can't tell you, more than one psychologist made me cry about my own life.
Right.
I was like, well, thanks for the free therapy for the past hour. I've just connected all the dots in my own life.
Yep.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Julie Gerner was another one who you referenced in your book, and we just recorded excellent. A couple weeks ago, and
she's one of my favorite people. I always say that her writing makes me feel like I could run through a brick wall.
Yes, and what I love about her that I mentioned on the show is that it's not super hustly. I take it she's very grounded. She comes from a place of like, this is what I've observed as a professional. This is what I know. Do you want it? Take it. If you don't, leave it. She's not just promoting this one way.
That's right.
So
she taps inside of you. She's not like, here's the 4 steps that you need to take to reach your, right. It's not that optimization culture.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Tears have been shed.
Tears have been shed. I mean, so I went a couple weeks ago to the Hello Sunshine event in California, which is hosted by Reese Witherspoon, and she was on a panel with Mariska Hargitay, which was like amazing to hear her speak. And she has a new documentary out about her mother, who she really did not get to know. Her mother passed away when she was very young. But she was the director of this documentary, and she had said something that like really, really stuck with me about the creative process being like healing for her. And I will say for me that I gained so much clarity in walking through the mud of this project for 2 years, not just other people's mess, but my own
absolutely.
Mess. Yes. And I was like, yes, girl. Yes. Yeah. Like this is exactly how I feel about this. Like, it's just clarity. Like, yeah. and it doesn't mean that everything's fixed. It just means like, I now understand exactly how I got here.
Right.
And how Doug and I got here. And, there's something like so freeing about that.
Absolutely. So something I was thinking about too. So there's this tennis professional, switching gears a little bit. There's this tennis pro I follow, and she does this always and never, right? So she's like different tactics. Like if your opponent is doing this, you should always move forward. If your opponent is, if they're putting you on the defense, you should never do this. In all of the stories and interviews with these patterns, were there any always or nevers that you observed?
I got to think about that one.
Well, I thought it was interesting, the joint account, when you talked about like a joint account. I mean, it did seem like a joint account was maybe not an always, but almost always.
That's a good point. We don't believe in always. Okay. So like, we don't really believe in always. always. So I don't want to poo-poo on the idea. But the only thing you should always be doing is communicating.
Is always be communicating.
And you should never lie.
Right. Yeah.
You should never lie and cover up something that you think your partner would disapprove of.
How often did that come up, that people were not being truthful?
Not often, because they weren't. I think it came up in smaller doses. We saw it because to be willing to admit that
exactly.
To us
yeah.
was, you would see it in like little white lies. You would see it in a joking fashion. You'd say, oh, haha. And I try to make this point that even a bunch of little white lies or things that you try and create opacity around so that your spouse isn't, dialed into one thing, like even that over time can turn into a big lie. That is you trying to hide the ball. Maybe not once or twice, but when you create a pattern and a practice out of saying, I'm going to keep this from them, you have to view the forest for the trees and ask yourself, why? Mm-hmm. What is it that's not working out between the two of you, and the way that you communicate around money, that you feel compelled to keep this whole area of spending, let's say, for example, on the side in the dark, when it comes to joint accounts, joint accounts produce better outcomes for couples. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep your own individual accounts. That's why I don't want to say you should always,
right? Because
I think that there's also there are many valid reasons why couples do not want to have a joint account. Look at second marriages. Mm-hmm. Look at, prior victims of domestic violence. There are reasons why people are motivated to keep separate accounts, and I don't want to discount them by saying you should always have a joint account. However, joint accounts often promote better communication, which is the thing you should always be doing. Mm-hmm. They promote better teamwork and a communal spirit in your relationship, which I think is really, really important. Like, the thing that you want to avoid is to keep score and to say, well, I did this, so you did that. I understand why couples, when they're young, when they're, starting out their careers, when they're just trying to start merging pieces of their lives together, might find greater comfort in that. I really get that. I do. I really get that. But life gets a lot more complicated than that. And it's not going to, it's not even that I don't think you should. It's that I don't understand how you can maintain that when you've got children, mm-hmm. for example. How do you operate in silos when you are caring for and raising a human being together? Because that spirit of doing that, of saying like, well, we're going to keep tabs, we're going to bean count, we're going to keep score here and there, that bleeds into other areas of your life.
Oh, yeah. So the croissant story. So you shared a story about a couple who they were basically splitting everything down the middle, and it was working okay-ish until one day when it wasn't. And it was the triggering point, or what was it? The final
straw.
The final straw.
The final baked good was at 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. after a drunken night in Tokyo for this couple. And, that was the one thing. And then it came out that he always ordered more. And then he was still insisting that they split everything down the middle. But then what would be the solution? Because it was the solution to itemize based on quantity. And then what are they going to do? Go out and share a bottle of champagne and be like, you drank 30% of the bottle and I drank 70% and itemize that way? The behavior came from a good place. The plan came from a good place. And most of the time it does. I think that's the point we want to make, right? Something that could have worked for you years ago may no longer be serving you. And recognizing that and addressing that is really, really hard. It's vulnerable. It is. And it's kind of it can be very intimidating for somebody to sit down their partner and say, hey, the way we've been handling this, I don't really think it's fair anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's working for me. That's not easy for people to do. So what they do is they hold it inside, resentment builds, and you wonder why the croissant? It's not the croissant. It could have been a sock on the steps, which is what I said for me. It could have been a sock on the steps after 2 years of feeling resentment build and build and build, and communicating in all the wrong ways, like huffing and puffing around the house, taking it out on my kids, yelling at Doug, snapping at him. It wasn't the sock. It was the fact that we didn't address it sooner that made it materialize in this, what appeared like this incredibly surprising way to her partner when it came to the croissant. Right. And the thing that changed, it wasn't just, her feeling over time, like maybe this really isn't what's serving us well over time, but that she felt like she was about to lose her job. So you throw some gasoline on that fire. Yes. Saying like, I don't feel secure with the way that we're handling this. How are we going to keep doing this if I'm not making money? Like, so, it's a mix of life happening to you, right? And that buildup of those feelings without really finding a constructive way to address them. That's how you end up fighting on the streets of Tokyo at 2 a.m.
Oh, for a croissant.
Oh, for a croissant.
But you just alluded to something as well that you talk about in the book, which is contributions.
This is, to me, incredibly personal to me. This is the heart of the book. This is the heart of the reason why I wrote the book. We wrote the book. Sorry. When I'm sitting here, just you, Karen. I truly believe that equity in the world begins at home. Equity begins at home. And money and care are inextricably linked concepts. And until women in particular are receiving the support they need and their time is being valued adequately at home, they will not have the support that they need to go out in the world and conquer and do the things that we want to do, that we want to see women reaching these places in the world. And the statistics back that up, that even breadwinning women, unless I don't have the statistic in front of me, but even in egalitarian marriages, women are doing a majority of the labor in the household. Mm-hmm. And so what was very important to me in this section on contribution was to reframe the way that we think about what it means to contribute to a family. Contribution is more than earning money. And that's not what society teaches us. Society teaches us that when you ask somebody, how do you contribute to your household? A lot of times people say, well, I make X, Y, Z, especially a male would say, well, yes. I earn
Absolutely.
money. And it is incredibly important to broaden our idea of what that means. I want caregivers to realize that they are also providers. I want their spouses to realize that they are providers and that they would not be able, even for caregivers who have chosen to take a step back from the workforce or downshift their career and, accept a smaller salary or no salary, and spend their time working in the home with their children. I want them to understand that they are making life possible for their family, that they are providing as well. I want to take down those barriers between work and care and the idea of what it means to work, because we're all working. And it's incredibly, incredibly important. So we begin that section just by reframing the idea of what caregiving means and really just creating some fluidity there. Because I think until then, our entire definition of what it means to contribute, that's what we learn. I mean, that's what I learned. And then I'm in my 20s, I don't have children, and I'm like, just climb, climb, climb. It is a constant optimization up. And when you feel like, whether you feel like an institution is stopping you from moving up, or it is your life circumstances, or it's your partner, or it's you wanting to take a step back, you shouldn't feel as though you are any less than, or that your time is worth any less.
Right. Yes. I mean, we see contributions commingling with finances in so many different ways. I mean, a common one, I think one that you shared in the book is, well, if I stay at home, I'm not earning any income, I feel like I can't ask for money to buy a new pair of boots or a new, whatever it is that I need or want for myself.
That was a very eye-opening, that was a question that surprised me during, and that kind of, the question itself materialized over the course of the interviews, which was, I started asking, especially caregivers who had chosen to take a step back from the workforce, even just for a time, do you feel free to spend? And a lot of them said no. And it wasn't even necessarily like, in some instances, yes, but in others, it wasn't necessarily their husband or partner who was telling them they couldn't. A lot of times it was also them believing that they weren't allowed. I know what I did, even when, and I certainly didn't downshift, but I pivoted my career to go work at Bonafide Wealth, and you know, I foregoed a 6-figure salary and our corporate benefits for our household, and I was like panic driven, like I panic to earn back my salary within 1 year. I told Doug, if I'm not earning back for this firm the amount of my salary within 1 year, I'm going back to corporate law. And he was like, you know, that's not how it works in like this business, and in when you're an entrepreneur and you're building, you know, you're laying foundation, you're building bricks. It's not dollar for dollar. Like that's totally not how it works.
But it was an internalized script that you had spelled out for yourself.
My self-worth was more tied to my paycheck than I realized.
Yep.
Until I left that job.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
It is really, really tough. And the thing you don't want to see is should women choose or men choose to take a step back from the workforce for a season of caregiving for their family, you don't want to see them check out of their finances. You don't want to see them check out of things that are important to them as individuals. You want to see them continue to evolve and improve and make sure that even in that season that there is a time for them, because you can get lost in it. I mean, we've all seen it. I see it all the time. Women come up to me all the time and talk about
I'll bet.
I mean, this is a real thing, and it's a one-way ticket to checking out of your finances and losing agency in your relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want to see happen, because when you go too far in, it's really hard to get it back.
It is. Yep. Well, the counterpoint to that is power, which you also address. So you want to share a few thoughts on that?
Sure. Power was also like we segue in the book from contribution into power, because we want people to understand. I think like when you talk about power in the context of a relationship, the first thought is like, who's got more of it? I need to take from him for me to find it for myself. One of us has to have more. Like we're in competition with each other for power over one another. That's really just not true. I think something that we want the reader to understand, and especially like segueing out of a conversation about honoring and valuing your own time. We want you to feel empowered in yourself, empowered in your understanding of your finances, empowered in your self-belief that you deserve to chase the goals that you have in your life personally. It's incredibly important. And then when you have those things and your partner has those things, you can come together and be the most powerful version of the couple that you could ever be. It's not just, the original title of our book was actually called The Merge. And that was from the early days of when we pitched this book to our publisher. And over time, it became so clear that was not only not an accurate reflection of what we were writing about, but that's not what you should strive for in your life, was to just be subsumed into one homogeneous, couple smoothie with your partner where you can't decipher what you want from what they want. That it needs to be yours, mine, and ours. And that's what power is about, right? When we talk about it in the book, we talk about not only the things that have power over you, but the ways you can empower yourself, and the ways that you both, two powerful, ambitious, driven people, can power one another up.
Yes.
Right? It's an incredibly important section for people to really take and run with in their own lives. And I hope that people will see pieces of their own behaviors in it and maybe give them some tools to better handle that.
Great. Well, those are all great and such important topics. We've covered a lot from, communication and dynamics, history. Before we wrap, Heather, is there any, practical takeaway, anything that you want to share with couples on how they can do money better together?
I want you to be curious. I want you to be curious about your partner. You should want to always be learning about them. In that uncertainty, in the stories, in the things that you don't know, is a beautiful intimacy that you can share with your partner. Money is a tool, but it is not more important than the love that you have for one another. And you just got to keep talking about it because, like I said at the beginning, like this isn't a game. This is not a game that you win once and you set yourself up and now, you played and you plugged into this course and now it's all fine. Like this is life. And if you're lucky, you're going to get to do it for a really long time with this person. If you're, and that's the lesson.
So stay curious.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
Stay empathetic.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining. We'll share in the show notes where people can find the book, the newsletter. What else?
The book and the newsletter.
That's what
I'm doing right now, right? Like you can order Money Together at your favorite retailer, anywhere books are sold, and you can find our newsletter, The Joint Account, at readthejointaccount.com.
Perfect. Heather, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again for listening. Please follow us on Spotify if you're not already, so you don't miss any future episodes. We'd also love for you to rate the show while you're there. Connect with us on social. Search Karen Coyne CFP on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. If you have feedback or if we can be of service in any way, please let us know. And now for the standard disclosures. Opinions expressed are those of Karen Coyne and not those of Raymond James Financial Services or Raymond James. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors Incorporated. Clarity Planning is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. Karen Coyne Financial Advisors, located at 12920 Connemara Drive, Suite 202, Hagerstown, Maryland, 21742. Phone 301-739-7002. Any opinions expressed by Heather Boneparth are not necessarily those of Raymond James. Raymond James is not affiliated with and does not endorse Heather or Doug Boneparth or Bonafide Wealth. This podcast is for informational purposes only.